He is powerful, that He is holy, that He is unchangeable, that He is omniscient, that He is omnipresent, that He is purposeful, that He is sovereign, that He is in perfect control of everything He has created all the time. You understand that God is above and beyond and outside all of the contingencies that go on in the created universe. He is transcendent. He is high and lofty, majestic and lifted up. And He is working to perfection His plan for the universe and for mankind. He has everything under control all the time and is in perfect knowledge and bringing to pass the plan which He ordained from the very beginning. In Job 42:2, we read these words, I know that thou canst do all things, and that no purpose of thine can be thwarted. Now there's a comment of a mature man. I know that you're in charge of everything, and no purpose of yours can ever be thwarted. Psalm 33:11 says, the counsel of the Lord stands forever. That is to say, what God says is fixed permanently. Nothing God says ever changes because there's never any more information. There's never anything to be clarified, and no circumstance can occur which God doesn't already know about and knew about when He made that declaration. That's why Psalm 33:11 also says the plans of His heart are fixed from one generation to another. From generation to generation, the plans of the heart of God stand. Nothing changes. Because there's no further information, there's no exigency or contingency that God didn't know about. Nothing changes. He inexorably and perfectly works His plan through to the end. In Proverbs 19:21, we read, many are the plans of a man's heart, but the counsel of the Lord, it will stand. We change our plans all the time because we get more information, because circumstances change. God never changes anything. His counsel is fixed. In Isaiah 14:24, the Lord of hosts has sworn, saying, just as I have intended, so it has happened. Just as I have planned, so it will stand. All these statements about standing have to do with God fixing a purpose which never changes. I intended it, and that's how it happens. I planned it, and that's how it is and will be. In Isaiah 46, a little bit more prolonged passage, all of this sort of comes together in very clear terms. Isaiah chapter 46, verse 8, remember this, be assured, recall to mind you transgressors. Remember the former things long past, for I am God and there is no other. I am God and there is no one like me. And here's the distinction, declaring the end from the beginning. And we can't do that. We don't know the end from the beginning. We can't affirm the end. We can't bring about the end from the beginning. Only God can. That's why He is God. There is no one like Him because there is no one who can tell how it's going to end before it even begins. He declares the end from the beginning and predetermined by His purpose. Now, God is sovereign and God is omnipotent. He knows the plan and He has the power to work the plan. He has perfect knowledge, so there's nothing to change the plan. He doesn't need us to give Him more information, and He doesn't react to circumstances. You say, why are you telling us all this? Because all these realities about God raise the question of how our prayers matter, don't they? Were you getting there? Start and say, well, why do I bother to pray? All that seems to squelch my prayer life and my little requests. And of course, that's one of the accusations that's been made by people who reject Reformed theology, that if you have a strong view of God, if you have the biblical view of God, it just takes all the heart out of your praying. I mean, I certainly don't want to bother God. I don't want to interrupt God. I mean, He knows where He's going, knows what He's doing. He doesn't need information from me about anything. And He's not about to change His ultimate plan and design. So if I am told to pray, maybe all I need to do is just kind of go in for a little brief. Because God has not only ordained the end, He has ordained the means to the end. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather be a part of God's means than anything else. I suppose I could be a spiritual couch potato and not care whether I participated as the means which God uses to reach His end, but I'd much rather be engaged and involved in being the means because the residual impact to me is wonderful. It is His goodness and blessing in this life and eternal reward in the life to come. The Old Testament, I'll give you an illustration. The Old Testament prophet said Jesus would be born in Bethlehem. Well, that's the end, and it had to be. He couldn't be born anywhere else, or the whole Old Testament would have been discredited. The prophet would have been wrong. How was Jesus born in Bethlehem? Because Caesar Augustus, who didn't know anything about Malachi or Jesus, determined a census to be taken in Israel, and everybody had to go to his own original hometown to register for the census, Luke 2, and so Joseph and Mary had to go down to Bethlehem at exactly the time of the census, which is exactly the time when she delivered the baby. The Messiah was born in Bethlehem. The end was in the plan of God from the very beginning, as articulated by the prophet in the Old Testament. The means was an ignorant Caesar making a decree. God uses the means as well as determines the end. The determinative will and plan of God. The means of our salvation, God determined that Christ would be the sacrifice for our salvation. The means, Roman soldiers, and all the things that went into it. Like everything else, look. God determined your salvation from before the foundation of the world. The means is through your faith and repentance. You will not be saved without faith. You will not be sanctified without obedience. And you will not enjoy the goodness of God in this life without participating in prayer in the accomplishing of the divine purposes. I can't think of anything more wonderful than God allowing me to be a means to His ends. It's incredible. I don't want to change God. Let me tell you right now, I don't want to change anything. Can't. It would be ridiculous to think of it. But that would be to assume that I had a better idea, and that's absolute idiocy. But to think that God could use me, totally ignorant of the future, totally inept, to be a means by which He achieves His eternal ends, and then not only bless me for that, but reward me forever, beyond belief. That's why the Bible tells us to pray. Prayer is a means by which God's infinite wisdom, infinite power, and perfect purpose are brought together to accomplish His will.